you doing? And you get to sit in the middle.
I know, right? It just allows you to like wear whatever you
You're
want.
only one off.
I used to have long hair, and so like I was like, once I cut my hair, I had to have something that was like,
Yeah, you gotta replace that.
Jamal.
yeah. So it's like,
See, I know him
this is
from
my
the
long
past.
hair coming out.
She had to remind me
I love that.
because when we were around each other, there was
I
1,000
have
people
long.
around
You're
all the
saying
time.
so. You do it on purpose.
But,
It's like I need you to know
Knew
that
it from
I'm not like you.
homeschooling in East Nashville.
I have long hair.
Yeah.
Jamal and I worked
So
together.
now it's just, it's still not like you. Unless we're at dinner. Can't see my feet. Then it's like we're exactly the same. We're the same. We all short hair.
What are you working on?
I am the program manager at NAMI Davidson County.
It's a grow idea.
You stay busy too.
It's just
So
so
you
much
stay busy
easier.
too.
But like I need to express something.
Facilitate support groups, teach classes.
I had a visceral
First
reaction to
contact,
these when I saw them. I was like,
Yes, yeah.
Oh, they're not custom. I
I'm the
thought they
person
were
who
like
does this.
custom.
no,
the
you
executive
you
director of
also
NAMI.
can own a
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
We
so
got a meeting
it's
tonight.
not so
Oh, yeah.
Now, what were you doing 4 years ago?
completely and totally commercialized that anyone could.
I still live in I
Yes.
still live in Bowling Green, but I worked out there.
Yes.
I got this
I
during the
remember all of
pandemic.
that. Yes.
The uniqueness is
I
that
got it.
nobody else is brave enough to buy.
Coming back slowly.
It is, I'm 43 now, so it's taking me a minute. I remember talking about.
What about the mics? Do we need to hold
you
mic?
driving
Yeah, if you're
to
speaking, if y'all wouldn't
Oh,
mind.
great.
being home stuff.
1, 2, 3. This is mine.
Yeah, so if you just hold the mics when you're talking, that would be helpful.
It's not that expensive. A Sennheiser.
Are these
pretty good. I like Sennheisers.
Okay. And it sounds like I can't hear myself, but that doesn't mean anything.
Can you turn me up in the wit? Can you have a little bit more of me and stage lift? That'd be great. That'd be great. Thanks. And if I could hear a little more bass, that'd be good too.
Right now.
We'll auto-tune everybody.
Yes.
That's more than
Can the viewer chat with us? Can they? Oh, well, then we got to know the one viewer's name.
there is,
I'm just putting
there is a way that they can submit questions. And so,
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Our live questions.
Oh, nice.
Could I have?
Sorry.
Yeah, people usually don't like to identify themselves, I guess,
Oh, really?
during these types of things. Yeah.
Well,
I can respect that.
And I can still ask them, and they can say no.
That's true.
Ready to go?
Should we get a countdown or anything, or are we? Okay. It's whenever you're ready.
Cue the intro music.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry.
Length of time for the whole thing that you're looking for.
You know, we originally thought 2 hours, but that's a long time to talk about suicide. To be honest. So,
I can talk about it all day.
okay, well, so we
Don
had,
should sit in the middle.
Once we get started, come on, no. Andy's
we
got a good question.
we
So
had-
we can pace ourselves.
well, we had given it like 2 hours for this, but you know, if everybody's kind of said what they want to say and it's only been an hour and a half, we can end it organically whenever. But we've got.
All right, good afternoon and welcome to Your Mind Matters, September's Suicide Prevention Month. We're here with some great panelists with us, and we're going to be discussing suicide and suicide prevention today. So my name is Bassam Habib. I'm the Be Well at NPL coordinator, and this is Kyle Barber. And I'll turn it over to the panelists. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit of what you do and kind of who you work with. And yeah, take it from here.
Cool. I'll go first. My name is Rob Blackledge. Been in Nashville for 23 years. Was in the music industry for 15 of those, and then that led me straight to therapy, which I then thought, I think this is good work. So I went back to school, been working. I started at a place called Sage Hill, and then I've been in private practice now for the last, 4 years, and in South Nashville. Work primarily with men and do primarily group work. Is kind of my passion and what I enjoy doing. So that is enough for now. I'm sure we'll get more later. Next.
Sounds good. Now, Rob, are you a vocalist?
Yes,
Because
I
I
am.
can tell because you're resting the mic on your chin, which
Oh, okay. Yeah,
is
that's,
a very music
It
vocalist
is?
thing
Oh,
to
okay.
do. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
great.
performance, way to go. Yeah, that's
just
awesome.
I know where it is.
So
I can't see it, so
yeah.
but I know it's where it's supposed to be if it's right there.
Well, nice. Thanks.
man.
That's great. My name is Andy Melton. Glad to be here. So thank you for the invitation. And I moved to the Nashville area over a decade ago now to go to school. I'm from Missouri. But as most people do when they come to Nashville, we stuck. And Nashville became home. And so my wife and our kids and all that, we're in the East Nashville, Madison area. My practice is there, so since 2017, I've had a private practice there that's gone from a solo practice to a group practice, and so we're over there having a good time serving the community there in Madison and East Nashville. And glad to be here today. I'm sure I'll say more as we go here, but yeah, thank you.
Well, my name is Jamal Nesbit, and it's great to be here as well. I've graduated from Bethune-Cookman with my master's in 2017, but I did my undergrad in psychology in 2014, which I moved from Daytona Beach. And coming here, it was, really just a new move for me, and getting a chance to really be in the communities. I've been working with teenagers and kids and even adults and in the crisis units for some years now. But I currently work in private practice, and I predominantly work with couples, but I also work with anxiety and depression. I'm just kind of helping people get their footing and helping them to identify that there is some things that you need support on. And with that support, it can move you forward. Sometimes that lack of support kind of clouds our mind and we're not thinking clearly. So I really enjoy what I do, and I really enjoy just being able to just be a support for people right now.
I appreciate being here too. I'm Don Leano. I am the program manager at NAMI Davidson County. So we're the local affiliate for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I don't actually live in Nashville. I live in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I was a pandemic hire when things were virtual, but I've made it work. I am originally from upstate New York, but we traveled a lot. We moved a lot. I actually went to high school at Beach in Hendersonville, and I got my 2-year business degree while playing baseball at Aquinas when it was a junior college years ago. I'm here today. Suicide and suicide prevention is a very important topic to me personally. I'm a suicide attempt survivor. I'm someone who lives with suicidal ideations to this day. I manage my OCD, depression, suicidal ideations, and social anxiety. So something like this does bring out anxiety in me. But the thing about at NAMI, we talk about it. We feel that the people with lived experience and their caregivers are the experts. Not to say anything against the therapists or the doctors or the nurses, practitioners, but we live it every day. So that's why I'm here, so we can talk about it.
That's fantastic. We appreciate all four of you being here today to share your experience here at the Nashville Public Library. We understand that we're not the experts, so that's why we've reached out to the four of you, and we appreciate you spending your time with us today. We just want to give a quick disclaimer that suicide is a very heavy topic, but it's not anything that we want to shy away from. We do feel like the more we can talk about it, maybe we can debunk some of the myths and taboo stereotypes that go along with suicide. I'd like to start off with just some statistics, and then I would love to hear just if you have a reaction to these or anything that comes to mind. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention said that 45,979 Americans died by suicide last year, making it the 12th leading cause of death. Men in particular died by suicide 4 times more than females, and 54% of firearm deaths were deaths that were actually suicide. I know those statistics only barely scratch the surface of this important topic, but I guess maybe a way to start is, and we can sort of, maybe Don, we'll start with you and maybe go this way. In your practice, in your daily work, how often do you have to deal with patients or clients that are, especially men or people identifying as men? How often do you deal with folks coming in with suicide ideations? And secondly, for those of us watching or those of us in the audience that maybe have not had such an experience with for themselves or with someone they love, what is maybe starting out, what can we say to those people? What's the first step to trying to get someone maybe some help, or where to go to even start tackling this? I know that's a lot, but there's maybe like 4 questions there. Yeah, Don.
I'll focus on the first one about how often I see people with suicide or suicidal ideations. We have a weekday helpline. We do not run a crisis line, but we have a helpline. But I would say at least once a week, we have at least a family member or the person with lived experience give us a call, talk about how they've either been hospitalized recently, they've been referred to us. We offer free support, education, and advocacy. We are not licensed therapists. We are people with lived experience. Typically, it's not shared often until I share it. I share it openly in our groups, in our education classes. I share it openly in emails that I send over 1,300 people in the Nashville area. So I try to make it easier for people to talk about it. But I would say that I also work with the incarcerated population. I've been out to DeBerry, and by talking to them, I've had inmates come up to me and say, I thought I was the only one that had these thoughts. It's more common than people believe and want to admit. Again, I have them. To me, I consider it like a song lyric you can't get out of your head. It's an intrusive thought. It can pop up on the best of days. It can definitely pop up on the worst of days. And I try to explain that to people, that it's okay to have these thoughts. It's acting on them that we're trying to prevent. It's getting the help you need, the support you need. But for me personally, I've had to learn that this is an intrusive thought. And that's what we try to bring across to our members, that this is like some people have voices, some people have intrusive thoughts, some people have suicidal ideations. It can pop up, you're making breakfast, I want to kill myself. Where'd that come from? You're sitting in bed, you're depressed. It's definitely going there. And I have to do a lot of self-talk to remind myself, this is just a thought. I don't have a plan, I'm not going to act on it, but it's a thought, and it's how do I deal with it? When we first came in here and I saw tea, I said, is there anything decaffeinated? I know from personal experience, caffeine and alcohol are not my friends. They bring out my anxiety, they bring out my depression, and I have to limit them. So,
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for sharing that too, as you share your expertise with us as well. With me personally, as I work with clients, I find that it can vary on the season on how frequent I work with someone who express suicidal ideations, but I frequently ask if they are experiencing any suicidal ideations. And I think it's important because sometimes we make the conversations very taboo, or we make the conversations tough, or some people may feel awkward having the conversations. And I feel it's very important to verbalize it, because if it's something that someone's thinking, sometimes it can be a relief to them. We have, and I don't want to go ahead, but in certain ways, I find it that even if someone doesn't have a plan or actively have ideations, if you ask them and say, "Hey, have you ever thought about what going to sleep and not waking up again before?" There's a lot of people in my experience that I talk to, they say, "Yes, I have, but I didn't want to kill myself." You know, they thought about death. And I think even being able to distinguish what is it when someone's having a suicidal ideation versus wanting to die or wanting to be dead, you know, it's it's important to distinguish and have those open conversations so we can get a better understanding and help them process as well. So
Yeah, I appreciate what you both are saying, and piggybacking on that idea, it is what people can often do, and the folks in my office will often think is that if they are disclosing this idea, Don, is kind of like what you said, if they're disclosing something, they feel like they're immediately in the wrong, or they're doing something wrong, or they're faulty, or they're bad, and it's none of those things. In fact, they're oftentimes relieved to hear, oh, there's a difference between thinking, I may not want to wake up in the morning. I want to escape this uncomfortable situation, this uncomfortable season of my life. I want to escape that. There's a difference between that feeling and, say, someone who is planning, getting things together in order to harm themselves or take their life. So, but a lot of people put all of that together, and so it's hard to talk about. According to Mayo Clinic here recently, they talked about some myths of suicide. One of them is talking about suicide. This is a myth. Talking about suicide increases the chances that a person will act on it. And that is a myth because, but that's what we feel, right? Someone might, it's just, I don't even want to put this out there because if I state it, then maybe it's more real, or maybe people will treat me differently. But in fact, that is a myth, and the truth is, being able to talk about it openly can go a long way to helping that person process those emotions and thoughts and move forward in their life, living life, and not moving the other direction. So I'm glad we're tackling that myth today.
Actually, I don't really have anything to add. As I'm sitting here, I want to go back to you, Don. I would love to hear more from you about your experience, if you're willing to share. It seems like something that you're willing to
I'll
do.
share as well as I'm comfortable with. But I will say, going
Thank
back
you.
to what Andy said, a lot of our members, and including myself, talking about suicide and having those thoughts, first thing that comes through our mind is somebody's going to throw me in the hospital. I'm going in the institution. My family's going to panic. Now, there are people who use it manipulatively. It goes back to, I'm going to kill myself if you break up with me, things like that. But that's rare. Personal experience, again, 20 years ago, I was a heavy drinker. I was self-medicating. I think that is more common than a lot of people want to admit. Co-occurring substance abuse. But, I self-medicated with alcohol, mostly liquor. We're not talking a couple beers. We're talking hard stuff. And that's where my suicide attempts came. It broke the inhibitions to make the attempt. I joke about it now, but being a liberal arts major, my methods were not functional. I'm lucky for that fact. I'm lucky for a cat that distracted me in one of them. God bless Lewis.
God bless Lewis.
But again, I attempted, and again, I was quite inebriated. But I was in a part of my life I was unemployed. I was unhappy in a marriage. I was unhappy with life. When my depression comes out, a couple years ago, as I said, I live in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I know you all have experienced tornadoes. We experienced one 2 Decembers ago, this coming December. In my neighborhood, I was one of the lucky few. I lost trees, but across the street, houses were torn to nothing. I decided to stay in the area and to deal with it now, not later. And I got sick physically. This was, could have been COVID, doesn't really matter what it was. I was sick. When I get sick, my mental health tanks. It's the sitting around, it's being in bed, it's not being active, it's not distracting myself. So really the sickness passed, the depression took on. And when my depression is deep, I don't want to go on. Now do I act, I make a point not to have things in the house that would be easy. I'm not, in college, I envisioned myself dying by gunshot. That was one of my first real experiences with, I'd had them as a teen, things like that. But in college, I do believe the alcohol, the ups and downs of alcohol in college, the university lifestyle, let's put it that way. But again, when my depression comes on, it comes on really hard. I've had suicidal ideations this week because I have some changes going on in my life. I'm an empty nester now. I have a lease that's going to be running out in 10 months. And when your landlord texts you after you drop off the rent, when you're moving out, even though they meant it to innocently, I'm like, I'm not moving out today. But again, first thoughts in my mind, I can't deal with this. Things are going to tank. I'm going to end up in literally catastrophizing, where the thought pattern goes from, I've got to move to, I'm living in my car now. I'm a burden to my family. I've been put in an institution. Why not kill myself? So again, and that can cycle within a few minutes for me. And again, it's why I avoid the caffeine and the alcohol, because they bring out the anxiety. The caffeine brings out anxiety for me, which can trigger the depressive thoughts and the OCD thoughts. And the alcohol, as I mentioned earlier, social anxiety. I can get out there with a few drinks, but later when those drinks start to fade, then the depression hits, then the feeling hits, and then the next day, hungover or not. I mean, we're talking, for me, at this point, if I had a beer, I've got to think, I want to have a beer at a ball game. What do I have going on the rest of the day? What's going on tomorrow? And if I do have depressive thoughts after this one beer goes through my system, am I going to be able to handle it? A lot of times I say, I think I'll pass on the beer. Yeah. I've already gone through all that thought process. So, and again, we don't talk about it. I identify as non-binary, but I've grown up, I'm 54. I've grown up as a biological male. I have been in locker rooms. I've been the outcast, the feminine baseball player, or, things like that. But it's amazing how many people have these thoughts, don't act on them, but don't want to talk about it. So when a life change happens, when something traumatic happens, they don't know how to deal with it. Am I saying if something really bad happened today, am I okay? No. I'm going to need to reach out to my support systems. NAMI, where I work, is good about it, but I have to, my therapist, my family, my friends, the circulation desk at the librarian who knows me really well. Seriously. I mean, I was a homeschooler like Andy's family was. The library helped me homeschool, the free programs here. That's the plug for Nashville Public Library right there. Thank you. But people will say, how are you doing today? And I'll say, do you want the short answer or the long answer? Yeah. I can tell you I'm fine, but if you really want to know, I'll tell you how I'm feeling. And again, like this week, with some changes coming on, my thoughts immediately, I know it was Wednesday night, immediately my thoughts were, kill myself. Just get it over with now before things get worse. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people deal with that, but they're ashamed to talk about it. Again, with the idea of, I'm crazy, my family's going to turn against me, or they're going to put me in the hospital, things like that,
So to piggyback off of like what all of y'all just said, and you kind of touched on it, can y'all talk a little bit about myths around suicide just in general? And if it's, because we know that obviously it's not something that happens in a vacuum. There are certain things that lead up to somebody taking their own life. Are there specific groups of people that would be more at risk, or are there specific behaviors, or are there warning signs that we could like look for or be aware of?
Yeah, I'll start this thought out because I know part of the library's mission is to talk to men in particular, which is super timely because male suicide is on the rise, and specifically ages 45 through the next 15 years or so. And so that's one myth we can address, is that teens and college students are the most at risk for suicide or to consider suicide, where that's not the case. It may have been in the past, but so we can kind of talk about that a little bit. But what, maybe just to open up the floor a little bit, if that age group, males age 45 and maybe to 60, if that's the highest growing demographic for suicide, then what might contribute to that? And then certainly we're going to get to what can be done about that. But first, what might be contributing to that? And we can start with men and then maybe go to the age.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. I think one of the hi, I'm Rob. I'm an alcoholic. That's I thought about that. I was like, as we're doing our exposure. Anyway, so a lot of my work around men focuses on the idea of coming out of hiding, just across the board. And I think something that stuck out when you were speaking, Don, is around your support system and the way that you clearly know yourself and the work that you've done to recognize things. And that's something that through my experience, not only in my own life, but with working with different populations, has taught me that men don't naturally do. Like, we don't spend a lot of time, going, oh, where does that feeling come from? And like, what is that? And where's it? It's like, no, we're going to go to work. We're going to watch our sports. We're going to hang out with our buddies. We're going to go have a few beers. And we're not spending a lot of time being curious about ourselves. It's not part of our culture. My dad didn't teach me to do that. My granddad didn't teach me to do that. Like, it's very easy for us to just do what we're supposed to do, have our responsibilities, and just keep most of it locked in, And what tends to happen is we learn how to do life, right? However we're taught. We have what we call is really healthy adaptive behavior that helps us survive our childhood, no matter what it is, right? And so we learn how to do life. I call it our training. We get trained, and all of us have a different story of how we became who we are, and then we take that into adulthood, into our 20s, and for the most part, for most of us, not everybody, for the most part, it works out okay. Like, our training leads us down a certain path, and then some people get married, some people get a job they like, some people experience tragedy and heartbreak, and things kind of can fall apart in a large way. Some of us do, some of us it doesn't. But inevitably, in every single human's life, at some point, it's all going to fall apart. Like, at some point, it's whatever you learned, however you learned how to do life, is not going to work anymore. And I think for a lot of, at least middle-class white men, that happens in your 40s. Like, we've had the privilege, we've had the opportunity, we've had the access, we've been shown the way to life, we're handed it, we get there, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm miserable. Like, I'm in a marriage that wasn't working, or my job, I've done everything I wanted to do with it. Like, and all of a sudden it's like, the way I was taught to do life isn't working anymore. Well, I've never been shown what to do when it doesn't work. Oh, I'm sorry, I drink. That works for a little while until it doesn't work. Or I'll look at porn. That works. Or let's just go all into prostitution and do that. Like, we'll move into a bunch of areas of addiction in order to try to numb and not feel. And the reality is the only way to escape these cycles is to tell the truth about what's happening, which is what we're trying to do here, and come out of hiding and say, this is what is not working for me, and to begin to push into the culture. And I know that's a big word. It really just means the people you're around, and start saying, man, this is what's happening inside of me, and finding the safe people in which you can begin to trust. And for a lot of people, that is therapy. I see therapy as a great gateway into what it looks like to really do relationship. But ultimately, when I look at, and I'm not a scientist, I'm not a researcher, I don't have any numbers to back this up. I just have hours and hours of conversation with people from different walks of life. But at the end of the day, I believe that the idea of coming out of hiding and learning about you and learning and having people around you that are curious about you and that you can feel safe turning to, whether it's the lady at the library or if it's a family member or if it's a drinking buddy for, like, where can you go to say, this is what's actually happening inside of me? Because what I think the research will say, and I hope you have more good research written down, is that most of the time people that kill themselves, like, we don't know it's going to happen. Like, people that kill themselves most of the time don't talk about it. So we don't know. So the answer to your question is we can't do anything. Because one thing has led to another, which has led to another, which has led to another, which is they've already made a decision in their brain what they're going to do. And that's it. And the people that are talking about it are in a far better place than the people that aren't. And something else that I picked up on what you were saying is that it doesn't just happen, right? People don't wake up in the morning and decide today's the day that I'm going to commit murder, right? Obviously, there's exceptions to everything, but for the most part, there is a series of events that has happened over a long period of time that have led to that place. And so I think when I look at this particular topic, it's around noticing people that aren't participating. It's around noticing people that aren't saying anything and being courageous and reaching out. Like, who's your friend that's shutting down? Like, who's your neighbor that hasn't come out of their house in a week? Who are the people that are no longer engaging, that are not, and don't put it off on somebody else. Well, somebody's going to check on them. Like, no, they're not. Nobody's going to check on them. Nobody's going to say anything. If you feel it, it's true. And so just move towards it. And I think that's what it looks like for us to come out of hiding. Hey, I'm scared to do this, but man, this might be crazy. I had a buddy a few weeks ago, and I'll be done after this, but who had a couple, like, he's an interesting dude, and I won't go into all this stuff, but long story short is he just left a party one night. And we were literally, we were at a birthday party, and we're all grown. He fits the age bracket, right? And literally, we all kind of look around. It's me and some good friends of ours, and it's a birthday party for a guy. And I was like, where did he go? And in the back of my brain, maybe it's just me being a therapist, but I was like, dude, that's what people who are about to kill themselves do. Like, I went, he just left. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't do nothing. And I was like, we got to call him. And I'm like, am I being dramatic? Well, I'd much rather be dramatic and call the guy and go, dude, are you okay? And we called him, and he was fine, and he was just doing his thing in his own way, but I'd rather know. So it's just about, but that's what it looks like to talk about it. It's like, just bring it up, man. Hey, this is going to sound weird, and he's, oh, man, I can't believe you would think that. And I was like, I know. In my line of work, you got to ask, or nobody's going to ask. And if I thought about it, and a month later, you're dead, like, oopsie, isn't really going to cover it. So.
And I want to share on that when we talk about so many different topics, from age to substance to identifying who you are and being comfortable there. It's so many different stereotypes on it when we go from the childhood experience to the adult experience. And I like to tell people that we are still the kids that experience whatever it was that we experienced. It's the same body, the same brain, everything that we have. And a lot of times we disassociate, which can sometimes minimize what we actually experience. So when we're talking about childhood and we're talking about what we were taught to do and not being comfortable to go out and just be curious. I talk to parents about the reinforcement of helping kids get to their autonomy, because ultimately that's a stage that we must get to. And sometimes it's about stage, not age of development. It's about stage. So when we're talking about curious, and let's say if we're not intact with our feelings per se, and let's say we're feeling sad, but we're told we're not supposed to feel sad. But what is sadness? Like, what is the function of sadness? And when you look at sadness, sadness has some components to either honor what is missed or what is present. You know, it's a way of moving to acceptance. It has an end goal and a functionality. So let's say if all of us right now just said, you know what, I'm fed up and I'm leaving and I'm not telling anybody. Let's say move to Guatemala. You didn't tell anybody you're moving to Guatemala. But the caveat is you can see the reactions of everyone that you love and that you care about. You didn't text them, you didn't call them, you just left. A month passed. And as you're watching this thing, nobody text, nobody called, no police report was had. As a matter of fact, it seemed like life is going beautifully and people are excelling, right? What do you feel? And if you refuse to feel that, this is where sometimes we get into despair and those things. It's like, you feel sad. Why do you feel sad? Because you want them to be sad. Because it's a way of honoring. They're not honoring me. I missed. I want them to honor me. And I'm sad that they're not honoring me. Now that I'm sad and I have no one to take it out on, now I'm angry. Anger is a secondary emotion. Anger typically is an action. So you typically you want some hope, you want some justice, you want some truth to come out with anger. Anger has an outcome. And as we're moving through these processes, I think when you say, what can we do about it? Why is this so prevalent? I think that age range is very interesting because it's like going on a journey your whole life. You're sacrificing these things and you move through the jungles of life and you get to the treasure chest and it's something insignificant. It's like a button in the box.
Half full.
It's like a button. And you're like, what? I did all this. I sacrificed family, friends. I gave away these great relationships. I did all this college. And I thought that it would be this. And I'm looking at it, it's a button. What am I going to do with this button? I'm in the middle of nowhere. And now you have to be introspective, like, was it worth it?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we need to have more conversation with people. And we do these, I remember being in 12th grade and we did a vocational test to see what it would be that we'll be good at and what we wanted to do. And I remember I got almost like perfect scores on the writing. And they said, oh, well, you'll be a great lawyer. And
Being a lawyer,
yeah, being a lawyer.
I
yeah.
got sandwich maker.
So,
I'm dead serious. I should make sandwiches.
And it's so interesting, right? It's like you know.
So I started drinking.
Yeah, but that's how it happens, right? You get these things, and you're like, now I have to be that. I went to college going to be a lawyer, and I
do make a good sandwich.
I can bet. Man, you might should have bought some. Had some sandwiches, but yeah, it's good that we can laugh about it, right? And this is what it needs to be. Yeah. It's being able to identify it, laugh at it, and make some form of normality that it's not only in your head. Because I was thinking, I didn't know that you experienced that. You know, what if you build your whole life around, I need to make the perfect sandwich? Yeah. Because that's what they told me. And I think that's what happens is I went to go be a lawyer. I paid for the LSAT. I did all of the stuff. And I didn't go and take it because I had someone who recognized something. And they were like, you know, I have a program for you. I was at Bethune-Cookman University, and Dr. Haynes. You know, he's like, oh yeah, man, you know, you come over into the counseling program, and you know, we'll grandfather you in, et cetera, et cetera. This was a week before my graduation, as I was going to do the LSAT, and I graduated, and within a week after, I was in my counseling program. You know, I was going to be a lawyer because that's what the paper said, and sometimes we do that. We live into what we think we should be, that we get there and ask ourselves, this wasn't worth it. I didn't want to do it. Mm-hmm. Now, you think about the relationship that you're like, you know what, I just wanted a more simple life. I didn't even want to move to New York. I just came here because this is where the best school was at. And I think it has a big effect on when you talk about your truth. What do you want to do? How do you want to live? Not what do you want to do. I think that question should be asked. I think it should be, how do you want to live when you're 40? Versus what do you want to be doing when you're 40? And I think it would change a lot for people. So, yeah, I see that as one of the underlying factors because, as you said, it can lead to the drinking, the substances, the et cetera, because another myth that happens is we have this thing where we say, well, they don't really want to kill themselves. It's like that's a myth. That's a myth because ultimately when you're in despair and your cognitions are different and you're having cognitive distortions, one of the things that happens is choices decrease. You don't see all of them.
You lose your creativity.
Yeah, you lose all of it. So when you're looking at choices, and it's like, oh, when you're in fight or flight, if something was driving into the glass and we've seen it in time, we're not going to think about, oh, well, if I jump over this table, I might hit my leg. I'm going to trample each other. We're just going to move. That's it. But what if the moving is a cliff? What happens? And that's where it comes. That's where the research is processing and talking to people it's a lot of that, those immediate responses. When you make someone choose, you take away their ability to make a decision. Very different. Choices has A, B, C, D. Decisions they're more slow. You think it out, you look at all of the variables, you're more clear, and he said, based on this information, based on this, and this, I make this decision. Choices is, hey, this is on the table, pick one. And I think that's what that fight or flight response gets us to. But just to answer that question, get into that age, we should ask how we want to live and really take in consideration outside of what people put on you. Say, hey, well, you're going to be the one that sings. Man, you're going to be the smart one. You was always just like your dad. Or you remind me of grandfather. What does that mean ultimately? Did they want to do what they were known for, or did they want to do something else? If we have no way to ask them, then we have that, what do we want to do?
It's almost like either we're attempting to attain something that we were told as a child, and we're older now, and we can't quite get there, and that unmet expectation can certainly contribute to that feeling of not wanting to be here potentially, or maybe we've attained it, and that we're talking about middle-aged men. We've attained it, and it's not what we expected, right? So it's like, I'm here, I'm the sandwich maker, or I'm a lawyer, or soon to be, or whatever, and it's just not what I expected, and so that can be, it can do a number on your mind, for sure.
And on the other end, Andy, is people in their 40s, males in their 40s and 50s who have a life change of the divorce. Getting back out, I'm sorry, but dating apps themselves can drive you to those feelings of suicidal ideations in the sense of things have changed. You thought your life was going where it was, whether it's a good thing or not. You find yourself single. You find yourself maybe having to move back in with your elderly parents, things like that. It's just, that life, again, on one hand, you've got the people who are succeeding, but is this all there is? And then others who have the change happen at 40s and 50s and aren't prepared for it because they thought things were going along swimmingly. This isn't how I did it in my 20s. This is different now, and that change. What I've seen is the especially with our members, the idea of having to make changes can bring out those thoughts in themselves.
So I just want to, because like with the myths, so I have an interesting kind of question to maybe ask y'all to see with the certain people that you work with, because I had always for me, like going to therapy, I was always I'm not gonna tell the therapist that I'm suicidal unless I was actually 100% I'm about to kill myself. Because of fear, they're gonna run into the room and hold me down and take me to the, you know what I mean? Whatever would happen. So for somebody that wants to have the courage to say to a mental health professional or to, their friends or family, how does there always need to be an outside, does there always need to be reporting on it? You know what I mean? When you're talking to a therapist, do they always have to tell somebody, or can you do it in a way where it's easier to say it? And then I had always read that I'm new to the data point that it's middle-aged white men that are killing themselves the most. I'd always heard that it was, that's on the rise. Yeah, so I'm wondering, why do you think that is? just from dealing with people that in your practice?
But if I can share on that, I think currently I think it's a big part of what's happening in the culture and media too. I talk with I have a diverse group of clients, but when you talk about why is middle-aged white men killing themselves more, it's I have people that talk to me about not even wanting to be white. You know, it's kind of a shame, like a guilt. And it's like, okay, well, if you're proud of being white, then you're racist. It's like, when did this happen? You know, and I think it's so much included in media. Of course, there's other factors, but you know, just speaking on what some of the things that I'm hearing, I hear people say even if they're in substance abuse and they're clean now. You know, sometimes it's like, well, I I relate more with these type of people, even though I'm white. And it's like, it's not to say right or wrong or good or bad. It just when you're not able to hold that part of your truth, the thing that you can't dodge, or it's like, is there anything positive, anything good that you see about being a white male, being white, being a male, anything? What can you pull out? What have you heard recently? Who do you know that represents a healthy life that you would even that that you're familiar with that looks like you? And if they do, if you agree with it mentally, what's happening to them? So let's say if someone said, "Oh yeah, I'm proud to be white," and then they ran through the ringer, it's like, are you gonna now say that too, or now you're gonna be like, "Oh, let me just be quiet." You know, it is some stigmas on as far as in the culture right now that's prevalent and it's pushing. And there's so many things that can be put up, whether it's political or whether it's just social media, whether it's guilt, whether it's this, whether it's that. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. But the support ultimately, as Don talked about, comes from the people around you. There are groups and there are people that feel the same way that you feel. And I think even as therapists, we may even have to do a better job with, I don't know, just making it more vocal, get it on the table, letting people know, okay, I understand, yes, I'm a therapist, but I understand that things are happening in the culture. And I tell people that there's always two experts in the room, and if it's a couple, there's multiple. I don't know your life. I only know what you tell me. I'm an expert in my field, you're an expert on yourself. So I'm gonna share with you based on my research what I hear. Is not saying I agree with it. And tell me, do you resonate with any of that? You don't have to hide anything. In a therapy session, it's designed ultimately for you to come in to understand that you is your therapy. It's not my therapy. I'm not gonna say, okay, well, I'm gonna do all this because I just know better. Like, no, if it's safe, and going back to childhood, when we're being curious, sometimes even when we're in a safe place or we think it's our safe place, we're told not to explore. Hey, you shouldn't do that. Okay, so when should I do it? When should I climb the tree? When should I go and get dirty? When? Tell me, is it when I'm gonna be an adult and more, I have more priorities or more obligations, or can I do it now because you're keeping me safe? Sometimes we don't trust our own circle, and it's some other aspects to it, but I didn't want to lean in on that part of it and just open it up for more discussion there.
Yeah, I want to speak to the first question you asked, which you were on that as well a little bit there, Jamal, is that when somebody comes in, I think you asked the question something like, is it okay that I describe what I'm really feeling? Or is that immediately going to put me in a category where my counselor has to commit me to, a psychiatric facility or something like that? Was that around the question that you'd asked?
Yeah, because I think there's like some stigma where it's like if you tell the counselor that you're suicidal, then they have to,
Yeah.
legally or something.
Yeah.
They have to.
And there is some truth to that. So let me explain that. And I think the leeway is a little more than what people might expect. And so when I have clients in my office, and we kind of touched on it earlier, there's a difference between the feeling of, I don't know if I want to deal with this anymore. It'd be nice if I didn't wake up. There's a difference between that and maybe somebody who has an intention to harm themselves, a plan to harm themselves, the means to harm themselves. That's when you get into all of that, that's where, okay, we need to keep you safe. And I mean, safe both ways, but especially in the secondary part of that. But what a lot of people don't know is they can go to their counselor and they can certainly talk about, man, I got this nagging feeling and I've had it off and on since I was a kid. And here's what I do about it, but I hate that I have it and I've really never told anyone before. And I'm really afraid that now you're going to have to push a button and something bad's going to happen to me. And it's pretty cool to be able to say, no, that's okay. You're good. You're good. Let's assess real quick. Let's assess the severity of what you're feeling, and we want to make you safe. You're not always going to feel this way, and so we want to make sure you're feeling safe. We want to make sure you're making decisions now that you don't regret later. So let's assess that part of it. But then once that assessment is done, and by and large, most of the time, that's not okay, we got to push the button here. We got to make a call. We got to report someone. Those kinds of things. Most of the time it's, okay, we assess that. Now let's get to what you're really feeling. Let's get to the thoughts, the feelings, how they recur, what triggers them, what gets them, kicked up, the dust kicked up in your life when it comes to those feelings. And you can really work through that with a counselor. So I think it's probably more accessible than what people might think.
And my experience with having to send people to the hospital is that once the boxes have been checked, right? Like you said, like once there's intent and there's means and there's access and you have a plan and you're telling me in the room, this is how I want to do it. I have the pills at home, or I'm going to drive my car off the bridge after I leave your office. It becomes evident. Like, you're no longer safe. So, it's such an, I feel so honored to be led into that space. Because what you're doing is you're giving me the opportunity to actually care for you. And what I'm going to say next is I'm going to say, I'm going to help you in a way that nobody up to this point has been willing to help you. And I'm going to send you somewhere that you may not want to go. Because I get all the feedback of like, well, what's my job going to say? I was like, so this is, at this point, you're sitting on the edge of the cliff and you're telling me that you're about to jump. So any other ideas that you have, they don't matter. Like, nothing else matters now. So if you're not at that place, then great, tell me more about it. Let's get curious about your suicide ideation. But if you're at that place, then I really love being able to walk you through the decision of, hey, you're going to call your work and you're going to say you need a week off. And what's my wife going to say? Your wife's going to be really happy because I almost guarantee you're not a lot of fun to live with right now. So, trust me, there's nothing that you can say that's not going to turn out better by you going and getting help right now. What you need is to lay down, to turn everything off, and have people take care of you. Because that's what you haven't been doing for years, probably. And I hear from more clients, I haven't sent lots of people, but everybody that I've been in this relationship with has said it was the best thing that ever happened to them. Because for the first time, they stopped. And they didn't go to work. They didn't take care of the kids. They didn't carry around whatever the stuff that they were carrying that led them to the place of believing that this is the best option wasn't there. So now it's just like, put the ball down and go sit on the freaking bench for a few minutes. Like, bro, God, and if I have to send you there, I'm going to send you there. And we call a friend. You say, because I don't want to call the police, so we call a friend. Friends always show up, believe it or not. I haven't had anybody not show up yet when they're calling and say, hey, I need you to take me to the hospital. And they go to the hospital. And the friend texts and says, we made it, or sends me an email and said, we're here, and that's it. And then off you go, and there's great people that are there specifically to care for you in that space. So that's been my experience.
That's what I was hoping that you would touch on, is that other people, like friends, family, would show up instead of like a patrol car.
Yeah, no, we don't call the police. At the end of the day, it's, if I'm getting into the legality of it, yes, I'm liable for if you leave my office the same way that a bartender's liable if you leave drunk. Yeah. I'm gonna. There's a lot of steps before before that, for sure.
But having the strength to talk to Rob about it.
Oh my gosh.
Weakness is, all of us were raised as boys. As men can't show weakness. Having a mental health condition, whether it's suicidal ideations, wanting to commit suicide, or just being diagnosed, like myself, with OCD, or someone with depression or schizophrenia, that's not. There's still the stigma of that's weak-minded. Guess what? This is the brain is another organ. We would never say you're weak-hearted if you had heart problems. You're weak-kidneyed. You're not weak-minded.
Cancer.
Yeah. How could you do that? You know, again, with cancer, you're gonna get a casserole. With schizophrenia, everybody in the neighborhood's gonna back up. Okay, it's just what it is. But again, we stress in our groups. It took a lot of strength for you to bring this to us tonight.
Yeah.
That you're having these thoughts. And again, if there's a plan, we are gonna step in. You know, we're not gonna shut down the group right then and there, but we're not gonna let that person go. We are going to take care of it. But the strength just to open up in a group setting or in a counseling session, that's what we try to stress. Is that having these thoughts is not a weakness. It's just part of, again, the brain is the brain just is complicated, and little things can set it off. And again, diet, exercise can affect your brain. You know, disease, all those things. But again, trying to get past the stigma of it's weak to talk about this I think is a very important for a male audience to hear.
I've never heard it put quite like that, but that makes a lot of sense to me. I'd like to switch gears just slightly and ask this question. If someone is watching right now or watching this later down the road in the archives, if they have a loved one, a husband, a spouse, a boyfriend, a brother, a father, a grandfather, that they think might be suicidal, what are the warning signs that person should look for in their loved one? And then additionally, what can that person do to support, or what advice would you have for that person? I realize that the answer is probably, you're kind of helpless, but that helplessness is also not a great feeling. And so I wondered if you had any advice or any experience that you could share for maybe the loved one that is maybe watching a situation unfold.
Well, one of the things that when you talk about what to look for, sometimes it's material things. Sometimes it's the giving away of things rapidly. Sometimes it can be just that, the person that's, they're not sad all the time, but today they're just the happiest you ever seen them. They're super great. Oh yeah, man, yeah, we're gonna go do this and we're gonna do that. The communication is a little different. Also, and I think Don talked about this, if they have a history of depression or substance use, or you notice that they were drinking heavily, because alcohol is a depressant, and it becomes progressive in that way. Just really looking at some of those things, and then, as you look at those things, it's if you have that thought of, okay, well, I think, but I'm not sure, and they're going to be upset with me. I often tell people, challenge that cognition. If you're afraid of it, which would you rather? And if they're upset with you and it's nothing, then nothing happens. But if it's what you think that it is, understand that it's not wrong to not be qualified to have all the answers, because even as therapists, we don't have all the answers. If someone needs stitches, you just, hey, doc, do they need stitches? I'm not going to take it upon myself. And that's more of a safety response for the person trying to help as well, because sometimes we can take on the grief if something did happen and say, well, because I didn't do this or I didn't do that, but were you trained to do it? Or is it your expertise? What you're putting all the pressure on you to be the solving problem. I just say those are some of the warning signs that I really look at, is if you notice, of course it's the obvious ones, but I like to talk about the unobvious ones, because I think in media we have even when we have those celebrities that might die by suicide, we like, oh wow, they were so funny, or they were so this, or they were so that. Or you can't see through the, I call it the represent the we have our representatives that we put out there. Everyone has their representatives. So it's like going to a meeting. You know, it's in the average, well, I don't want to say average, but in a human body, we have highs and we have lows. It's if we see it too low, we know that we're depressed. If it stays there, if it's too high, is that sustainable also? If someone's always happy, is that a sustainable thing? Can you always be here? And just really looking at, okay, well, and I don't want to go deep into that because you know it's when you go into those celebrities and things, but we have our people that we build ideologies for, and we have these images of. Just say, just go to the basics and look for those warning signs. And if you don't know, ask somebody. Find your trusted person and ask. You know.
Yeah, and it's the real friend who says something, right? I think you kind of spoke to that because sometimes friends and family are afraid to say something. Maybe if I ask them about it, are you feeling some kind of way? They'll push back, or maybe they end the friendship or something. But it's worth it. It's worth it. It's the real friend that tells you if your zipper's down, right? It's your real friend that asks you, hey, what's going on, right? This isn't. So yeah, something to, as Jamal said, some other things to look for. Just erratic behavior, extreme behavior, either out of their rhythm or emotion, either high highs, low lows, things like that. I also think eating and sleeping, those two things can tell you a lot about a person. If they're in a weird season or something, you know, they'll either be sleeping way too much or way too little. They'll be eating way too much or way too little. And those are great things to ask about if you notice that. Hey, I noticed we've been out a few times in the last few weeks. You really haven't eaten much. You good? You know, something along those lines. And then finally, what are they talking about? And so that's another thing to consider. As Jamal said, are they talking in terms of like that there's not much of a future?
Yeah. What are you looking forward to?
Yeah. Or are they giving away prized possessions? You mentioned that. Are they talking about being a burden to people? No, I don't want to do all that because I might be a burden to you. So that's another great way to watch for those behaviors.
The only thing I'll add to those thoughts about the people that are in relationship with someone they are concerned about is that the best way first, and this is what I spent more time leading up to this thinking about than anything else, because I have to take care of me. And if I'm really worried about you, I can't make you not do something, and I can't make you do something, but I'm terrified, okay? I'm terrified that you're going to hurt yourself. So a lot of us, people don't know how to talk. You know, it's really scary. So I tell men to lead with your heart. So I'm going to come to you, and I'm going to say, bro, I'm really afraid right now. Really, right? So I'm gonna practice what I want you to do, which is I want you to tell me the truth. I'm really scared that you're gonna hurt yourself. What? Or, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said something. Like, anytime you can bring yourself and say, this is what I'm feeling, this is what's happening inside of me, that means it's about me. I just want to tell you what it's like for me to be with you. It's not your fault. I didn't say it was your fault. I'm just telling you that it's really scary for me right now because I don't know what's going on inside of you. And it opens up the door to it becomes not about the shame. It doesn't become about the guilt that individual might be like. It's saying, hey, I want to be with you. I want to be in relationship with you. And right now it's really scary. Really, what's scary about it? Well, I just have been noticing some things, you know. And if there's pushback, if there's a defense, you say, man, it seems like you have feelings too. Or, hey, I just want to tell you I'm afraid. I don't need you to fix it. I don't need you to make it better. I just want to be with you. And quite honestly, 90% of all the therapy work I do is that conversation right there, over and over and over again, between a couple, between friends, between bosses. It's over and over again of like, this is what I'm feeling, and I need to tell you. I would love to know what you're feeling. And then you're opening the door to not be hiding anymore and to start having an honest conversation.
And if you're not comfortable now, know I'm a safe space to talk to later.
Yeah, we don't
Es-
have to. Yeah.
Especially with people who have a history of the depression. We talk about, and I do it myself, it's the idea that these are the warning signs you should look for with me. And again, in a lot of people, they don't show it if they do commit if they're first time around. But if you have a history of it, talking about, if you notice I'm not sleeping well, if you notice I'm snapping more, if you notice I'm turning in things like, there's difference, call me on it.
Yeah, I'm going to give you permission.
Yeah, I'm giving you permission to call me on this. And again, having that open dialogue.
What do y'all think about social media if I see
I think
something
it's
like that?
stupid. Next question. Anything else? Are we done here?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It is. It is. I was gonna say, if you see something like that on social media, though, because people will post, an Instagram post, and it's a long caption, and you're pretty worried about that person.
You gotta go.
What are some steps?
You gotta go over there. Like you gotta just bypass. I'm not gonna leave a comment. Like I'm gonna call
Yeah.
you. Like
Take the risk.
like
Take the risk to
bro,
ask.
you don't get to post this and get away
Uh,
with it. Like come
yeah.
on. Like
Yeah.
you just gotta call. Like social media is the front, like you're talking about, and you put anything out there. And so I'm sorry, at this day and age, you don't get to put anything out there and just get away with it, man. I'm like, bro, you just posted that for real? Like, what's happening? Like, are you being serious? Oh, I just thought I could get some likes. I'm like, well, that's a terrible way to get likes. Like, stop.
Yeah, and
I'm scared. You're scaring me.
and as a reminder, not publicly, right? You're not doing that and through a comment
Oh, yeah,
or
I'm
through
calling.
another
I'm calling.
post.
Yeah.
It's right. It's instant message or private messaging. It's calls. It's whatever. But
And for
it's
Pete's sake, do
worth
not put
reaching
a
out.
thumbs down or something next to it.
yeah,
It's the
yeah.
idea that, and it's a lot with the social media. A lot of people use it because they're lonely. That is their only communication. We're not talking. Liking Andy's post is one thing. Reaching out to Andy and talking to Andy is a whole different feeling. And the isolation that is, someone
it's
who's going to
real.
post like that is already feeling isolated.
Yeah.
The only way I can get this across is maybe social media,
Yeah.
and that's a whole different topic, whole different issue.
And in many ways, it's the issue. Because at the end of the day, when you asked a question a few minutes ago about, why is it this age group of men, of white men, is that those men are isolated. Being a middle-aged white man, we are raised in a culture of isolation. Like I'm so envious. I look around at other cultures around me of people that look like you guys, and I go, you guys have you were raised in I watch it. I have friends that are raised in this culture of we're together, we're doing this, this is a thing. We don't have that unless you want to. I'm not going to say that. That would be too much, too far. But unless you want to jump into a particular population of people that I don't want to jump into, who are my people? And where is it? Where do I turn? And I live in a very affluent neighborhood, and it's a challenge. I don't make a lot of money. It's how do I, who are you? Are we together? Are we apart? Are we fighting? Are we friends? Do you know how to be friends? Do we do it the same? Bro, and I'm looking for authentic, so that's why I lead groups. I lead groups of men and they fill up immediately because these men are going, where can I come and be myself? Where can I come and show up and tell the truth and be honest about how hard it is and how much life sucks sometimes and what I'm feeling and thinking, and because it doesn't openly exist in the world that I live in on a day-to-day basis. We're just told, make more money, work harder, take care of your kids, and honestly, nobody really cares about you at the end of the day. So just keep providing. You're doing great. So that's been my personal experience, and now I'm a relationship addict because that's where I found that I find life has had is in relationship with people where I can be me and do me and not have to apologize for it, and be held accountable at the same time.
I think something we haven't touched on, being males, how many people here on this panel, in the moderator, their father talked to them about mental health?
Right. Yeah.
Okay? The first time I mentioned mental health to my offspring was one more time than my parents ever did. And again, being 54, I have, parents in their 70s. It was not something, again, it's not something that they would talk to. Definitely their parents didn't talk to them about it. I mean, their parents were, the World War II generation. They were not going to talk about this. We don't talk about this. We do not talk about this. In my own case, my father would have left the room already. We're talking mental health. I'm going to nope.
Yeah, my father left the
I'm
country.
out of here.
My father left the country to avoid the mental health conversation.
So, but having conversations as early as possible about mental health. We're talking about the 40s and 50-year-olds, but I'm talking about from here on, talking about it with family, having an open conversation about it. Do you really want to sit? Jamal, I'm going to sit and we're going to talk mental health. No, side-by-side conversations on that walk, on that car ride. When you're playing a board game, just there's been times I haven't felt good.
Yeah, it's about you. Just tell your story.
Just relating that. Yeah, I have an 18-year-old. Anything they bring to the table, I've felt or have done, and I'm not surprised. But being able to say that gives them the feeling I'm not alone.
Yeah,
I'm not. I thought I was the only one who thought this way. And again, having those conversations and fathers having those conversations with their sons and the daughters, moms too. But I'm saying, from the male perspective, fathers being open about that. I'm better now, but I struggled in my 20s. I had a hard time with things. Just having those conversations, I think, is prevention in itself.
It's a relationship, man.
And I want to piggyback off something you said about looking at it as weakness. And I think that's where, even as you talk about the support and, really going out and saying, okay, well, I'm not by myself. It's kind of like even with the social media, it all ties back into me as far as when you're weak, you need support. And when you're strong, you don't.
You're good.
So it's like, because it's weak, I'm not going to get any help. It's like going to the gym and see the guys, ego lifting, and they just struggling, but they need someone to help them. They don't want to get a spotter. And you see all these videos of weights falling and people breaking things. And,
ask for a spot, man.
It's
That's
like,
a great example.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they got to be halfway passed out before asking. And it's like, we know you're strong. We can see that you have muscles. You still need a spotter, though.
Yeah.
Because I think we all lift close to our max. So no matter how strong you think you are mentally, you're always going to push yourself to that point. Yeah. And everyone has a breaking point. Even the world's strongest man physically has to stop physically. So I think once that stigma gets off it of weak, and understanding there is always a burnout point, we need to recognize the burnout. And I think to your point is the activities, positive pro-social activities, making it more digestible as we break the stigma. Having quality time changes it because it's mixed in instead of like, here goes this test. It's like, no, here go, let's learn as we go through life, as we would naturally, so.
Yeah, the whole, as we talk about sharing a weakness, sharing what we're really feeling, as I was looking a few things up for our discussion today, expression of vulnerability came up all over the place for men, that if they're good at that, if they do that on the regular, the chances of them taking their own life at some point in their life decreases significantly, right? And so, well, what is vulnerability? What is expressing that? And the way I've always defined it that helps for me to know what that means is somebody who's being vulnerable with someone else, it's like they're saying, I'm going to open myself up to you so that you can see not just the good, but the bad too. And I'm going to give you permission to use that against me if you really wanted to. And I'm going to trust that you won't. And that is scary. And so actually, vulnerability is more risk. I mean, it's a lot of risk to be vulnerable with somebody and to share that weakness.
Yeah.
But it is in my estimation, it's a beautiful risk and much more healthy of a risk than to stay isolated and just hope that somebody gets it. And then, So what does it look like? And I think that probably looks different for everybody, but what does it look like? And our listeners might ask themselves that now in this moment. It's like, what does it look like for me to go to this person, a significant other, a friend, family member, and be real and open and vulnerable for the first time, and to see that as a strength, as evidence of strength?
If there is somebody maybe watching right now, and maybe this is their tiptoe first step into trying to maybe get some help or seek help, and they are maybe depressed or feeling suicidal. If you each had like one thing you could say to them, or a piece of advice, or a next step, is there something you would say to that person that might be watching this conversation right now?
Somebody that's feeling it right now as they're watching. And each of So for me, I would just say you're not alone, and I would say kudos if you can express that to somebody. And there was something else when you said that. There was something else. I might come back to it. But yeah, just know you can say it, and you're not alone. A lot of people feel it. We're just not always courageous enough to talk about it, but you can say it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you in that space, just give yourself some room. And I often tell people, I know it's easier said than done when in that space, but I do want to acknowledge that sometimes you may hear that quote of, don't do something permanent for temporary situation. And just know that there are more options. But if you know that you're depressed, then your options are limited mentally. It's those cognitive distortions. But I don't know who it is that you trust, who it is that you can go to about anything. I don't know if there is a person, if social media is your outlet. Sometimes get it out however you can. Get it out however you can. Because I don't know, and I won't pretend to know what your situation is, but if it is something that you're feeling, and if you've never got it out, get it out. If you have to put it on social media, that may be scary, right? But you may say, if you feel like you're alone, ask yourself, is it true? And test it out. Because if you're really alone, nobody will message back. No one will call sometimes. And even if they don't call, it still doesn't mean you're alone. But we have to meet and make ourselves available sometimes to the people that's there for us or that would like to be there for us. And sometimes those people that you may want to go to, they may have hurt you in a way. They may have made you upset. And you may have trusted them before. Sometimes you may feel rejected, neglected. Sometimes you may not feel good enough. But ask yourself, is it true? And if you're not able to ask yourself, just reach out to whoever your closest person is. And I want to leave that there because go ahead.
And if you don't have that person in your life, that's why organizations like NAMI and the American Federation for Suicide Prevention are there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to call 988 if you're just seeing this and feeling it? Probably not the best option, but you could and say, I'm looking for a warm line. I'm looking for a peer to talk to. There are peer support. I know out of East Tennessee, there's a peer support line. A lot of the hours are business hours. They're not 24/7. But again, contacting an organization like NAMI, like American Federation, to put you in contact, and to talk to people who, again, both of those organizations, we have lived experience. So we're going to say, I get where you're coming from. I especially get that you don't have the support system. You can't go to your parents. You can't go to your spouse, or you don't have anyone in your life. but having that conversation and seeing it, that's a good first step. And it's baby steps. Seeing this live stream and going, I'm there, reaching out again to those, but also to the agencies, because wherever you need to get someone to talk to you and talk with you, not talk down to you, not go, oh, call the hospital, or oh my God, I can't believe you're thinking those thoughts. Because again, some family members go, oh my God, or how dare you bring that up? You know, I'm already, stressed at work and all this. No, I don't want to listen to this. Finding there are people in the community. If you can't find, within your own nuclear family, your own support system, reaching out to them is very important to me.
Yep, my own journey with depression has, when you ask that question, I think about my lowest of lows when you can't do anything. Like, it's just, you're paralyzed. And having learned what to do with it, it really all boils down to the smallest next right step. And man, I don't know how, as depressed as I've ever been, I could type into a Google search bar.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can say, I need help for suicide, or who to call. You type in a search bar and you click a button, and Google and all of its majesty will serve you up 3 billion options.
And you haven't had to leave that bed that you've
and
buried
you
yourself
haven't
in.
moved anything.
Because sometimes that's the hardest thing, getting out of bed and getting to the kitchen.
Your phone, right? And so and don't think past that. Don't try to figure out the next 8 weeks of your life. Just do the next 5 minutes. My mentor said, just shorten it, man. He couldn't get me to short my sentences, clearly. But shorten it down. Just for the next minute, your entire job is to find somebody either on the phone or within a mile of your house, or if you live way out, there's somebody there. One of the greatest things about this country is that we provide an enormous amount of help that's free, and it's just there. And a lot of our job is to say that it's there. So without going down a laundry list of organizations and things, just pick up your phone and go, who do I call if I want to kill myself? Mm-hmm. And there it is. And then you click on that, and you click that, and just hit the speaker button, and somebody will start talking to you. And it's taken 15 seconds, and take it from there. Then do the next 15 seconds.
Any audience questions? Do you want to see?
Oh, let's check for audience.
Yeah, we're going to check for audience questions real quick. This has been an interesting conversation. I think coming into this for me, I thought, just to talk about myths, I thought that this was going to be a very serious conversation because of the subject matter. I did not expect any sort of laughter or and I think that's a big myth that I think
This stuff is hard.
Yeah.
This stuff is hard, and people living with it, even having the break to laugh about it. Again, like in our support groups, we have had conversations about suicide, and it has turned funny. Again, we're not dismissing it, but trying to keep some lightheartedness in it, because again, this is hard. And
But
being
it's
able
normal.
it's normal.
It's
So being able to
normal.
share it and being able to normalize it.
People fart, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny and it smells bad at the same time. So let's just acknowledge the fact that this is a reality, and that's part of the whole thing. Is man, just tell somebody. And if you find a bunch of people that go, "You're crazy," they're not there yet. So keep going till you find somebody that goes, "Me too." And all the people before them, they're going to be the ones that are going to be coming to you at some point. They're just not there yet.
And I just wanted to comment on that "they're not there yet" statement. I think that's one of the most important things to understand, is that it doesn't mean something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
They're not as experienced yet. They're just not there. Yeah. And knowing that it's always a different group. It doesn't matter what you do in life. You can find someone that does it too, no matter what it is. From any spectrum, it's someone else that does the other thing. So if they're not there yet, they're just not there yet. But there's someone who is. So And like you said, just go to those resources, and I know you gave some good ones as well. And just so for the viewers watching, there is difference. For instance, for kids, if you're under that 18-year-old mark in out of Davidson County, youth villages typically do the crisis. But if you're in Davidson County, then mental health co-op has that jurisdiction. But mental health co-op also has crisis lines as well for adults and people over 18. So
We do have a question from a viewer. And this is a question that I actually wanted to ask, but I didn't have the words or the confidence, I guess. How do you cope if you lost someone to suicide, even though you tried to help prevent it?
Yeah, great question. I sat with a guy for 3 years who lost his dad. There is not an easy answer to that question. There's also not a formula to that question. And the only answer I do have, most people don't like, but you have to become acquainted with grief. You have to become acquainted with deep sadness. And you have to learn how to hold that. You have to snuggle up and close, and you've got to cry, and you've got to feel it, and you got to find other people that know what it's like to feel it, and you have to come together, and you have to say, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. And there's nothing you can do about it. And we love being in control, and if you have had that experience, you're not in control. And I will promise, and I don't make a lot of promises anywhere in my entire life, but at some point, if you're willing to go down that journey of grieving and of being sad, there will be a time where you will experience a gift. And you will recognize that this is an experience that, although scarring deeply, can provide an immeasurable amount of meaning to your life. And so it's a hard thing to say around tragedy, but if we don't find meaning in tragedy, then it's just trauma. That's the definition of trauma, is loss and sadness and pain with no meaning. And so, you have to hold the grief. You have to live it. You have to be in it. There's no escaping it. You can try to escape it. You won't be able to. It'll make it harder. So dive in and get dirty and learn what it's like to be really, really sad.
And don't do it alone.
Please
Don't do it alone. Again, we all grieve differently, but it's a process. There are support groups like through hospice and things like that, even for suicide loss. But it's just, it's you take one day off for the funeral, no matter who dies, whatever the cause is, you go right back to work. It's not built in a grieving process in our society. That guess what? For the next 6 months, I am not going to be myself. The things are going to slip by.
Our
bills aren't going to get paid
our
on
culture
time.
says, go home for the weekend, watch a bunch of Netflix, see you Monday. That's what our culture says, yeah.
Well, they're the same. Same people that raised us. Have made
True
us
that.
this
True
culture.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I appreciate what you all are saying, Rob, what you're saying about getting comfortable with grief. It doesn't mean you'll always feel it to the same extent every day for the rest of your life necessarily, but it will likely be a part of your life for the rest of your life, because there is no replacing that person that you lost. Now, you can take heart knowing that you did what you could. To the question to our audience member, you did what you could, and that's good to know. But it is and what Don said is true too, to be open about that, similar to what we're saying here about the whole process. If somebody's thinking about harming themselves, be open. If you're one that has lost somebody to suicide, and it was weeks or months or years ago, and you're still hurting, you're still feeling it, don't be afraid to talk. Yeah, that's right. It's good to feel it, and don't be afraid to talk about it, whether it's with a counselor or others around your world. But keep that an open topic. And here's what I've learned about how that grief works, which, by the way, grief to me, grief is the healthiest of all sadnesses. It is just by design, it is the body's way of working out a very difficult thing. And the closer that person was to you, the longer and harder that process will be. But when you, over time, what I've noticed is that for a season of time, that grief will decrease a little bit. And then a season change will happen, and that dust gets kicked up again, and it sucks. It just sucks because you have to feel it all again. But then the good news is the dust settles again. You accept some of that feeling. You feel some of that feeling, and you'll go through it again at times in your life. Unfortunately, is unavoidable. But it does get, I don't know, it gets...
Changes.
It changes and maybe gets easier to feel, even though you still feel it.
Another way is honoring that person's memory by volunteering for suicide prevention. Like with AFSP, in the African American faith community, there's suicide prevention in the African American faith community that's run out of the health department. Again, because you can't pray this away. A lot of people, are in the churches are said, well, just pray this. It'll go away with your prayer. That's not enough. But again, honoring their memory with the fact you can't bring it back. You can't continue to guilt yourself for what you didn't do, but maybe putting those efforts into helping others coming behind.
Yeah. And I just wanted to share too, just to add to what everyone shared there, and to piggyback on what you said is, when you talked about even with prayer, it does take work. It's some action steps even behind prayer. And when you're looking at grief and sadness, and you're talking about accepting it and leaning into it, and I think Andy kind of gave some insight into this, that the stronger the relationship, sometimes the more the grief that you feel. And just remember the function of sadness is to honor what is present or missed. And sometimes that's unconsciously a way of, hey, I honor you because this reminded me of you. And lean into that honor sometimes, like I said, with support, of course, because it has to be safe. But I even had to I had to change that cognition in my mind that I'm honoring someone. Let me just honor them. Because just like if we talked about before, if you were to leave and nobody responded, how would you feel? So it's me saying, oh, this is my time to honor them. That's what you talked about with walks or with support groups or with any form of giving back to the community. And also give yourself space to understand that no relationship would be like their relationship. And that's fine. So you're not trying to recreate any relationship with them. And I've been running into and talking to some people that is actually on a different side of things, is that they feel the sadness, but they start to feel guilty when they're not as sad. And then they start to try to recreate moments so they can be as sad as they once was, because they feel like now they're forgetting or they're not doing their part of remembering. Just understand that it is a process. Grief happens. It doesn't mean you no longer honor them. You honor them already. You can give things a remembrance and do things a remembrance. But just because the grief isn't as heavy, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to find another pool to swim in. And you're like, oh, it just doesn't feel the same. Now I have to do this. Now I have to do that. Now I have to do this. And sometimes, from what I experienced, is some people share me that they feel bad about not feeling as sad. And just understand that if you, that means that your body is saying, you know what, you honored that person enough. You can still feel sad. It's just not going to be the same, which it happens in substances. People that try to, what they call chase the dragon. The first time was different from the second, third, fourth, fifth, and they chase the first time. Get present and understand that, hey, this, what I'm doing is the process. Honoring them is moving through the process. And it's a part of it, I would say. It's not all of it, but a part of it is moving through the process, because sadness' ultimate outcome is acceptance. So, yeah.
This has been a fantastic conversation. I think we'll move into like final thoughts. I would just like to give each of you a chance. If there's anything that on this topic that we didn't really touch today, I know we've covered a lot of ground, but if there's anything we didn't touch or a piece of advice that you want to leave folks with, we'll just go down the line and start with that. And I just want to thank you all again for being here and sharing your expertise with us today. It's been really fantastic to sit here in person, and I know the folks watching at home, I know I speak for them too, so thank you again for being here. And yeah,
Well, in an effort to practice what I preach, I'm going to take care of myself and go to the restroom, and then I'll be right back. So it's okay to ask for what you need, and right now I really need to go to the restroom. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'll be back in just a minute.
tough to follow, I know, but
I don't need to go to the restroom right now, so I'm just going to stay here. And,
I didn't until he mentioned it.
And yeah, no. Okay, take 5, everybody. Let's.
Seat has been planned.
Right. Yeah, first of all, for the people who are watching this, listening to this, whether live or archived, that already tells me something about them. That they're willing, they're curious and willing either for their own stuff or maybe for the stuff of a friend or family member that's, things that are happening in their life. So kudos to you, whoever's listening to this right now. Kudos to you for taking the time, learning a little bit more about this subject, learning more about maybe how to be a help to someone else who's going through something like this. And then I'll go ahead and make a plug for our profession in this moment here, and maybe that'll be my final thought. But thankfully, therapy and counseling, it used to 20, 30 years ago, it used to have sort of this stigma to it that it just wasn't acceptable unless you were really messed up somehow, right? That kind of thing. It is not that way anymore. In fact, it is a service that's provided. And so similar to, I hear, especially the younger generations, millennials and the Zers, Generation Z, they'll say, hey, yesterday I went and got my coffee, I got my massage, I saw my therapist, and then I did this, and then I did that, right? It's just one of the many things. And that is a beautiful thing that's happening in our culture, right? Because people are talking, they're being vulnerable, they're being open about what they're thinking and feeling. And so I guess that would be my last thing, is just that if that's not something you've done, there are counselors, therapists, and the like, all kinds of different access points, whether it's free or reduced rate, or if it's other rates that you can afford, whatever it might be, through insurance or otherwise. But there's a way to get in with a counselor, and there's a way to start this process and that's one of the myths, by the way, that the Mayo Clinic talked about, is that counseling doesn't work. That's a myth. It is actually a pretty big step to get in with someone, be intentional, and have a regular time every week or every other week or whatever it is to sit down and talk openly about what you're thinking and feeling. And it does work. It's a big deal. So that'll be my thoughts.
And I'll piggyback off it, Andy, when it comes to therapy. Being in control of your own therapy, working with your therapist on a plan, not just, I'm going to go into Andy and Andy's going to solve my problems. No, I'm going to need to work. I'm going to need to work. And I go into therapy and say, listen, stop me if I start talking about what happened on Tuesday. We're not here about that. We're here about this feelings, or we're here, having purposeful therapy, going in with a purpose and working with your therapist, to me, is very important. Other than that, the fact that people will watch this, again, educating yourself about what's out there, the resources, therapy, support groups, all of that. That's a great first step. And I used to fight the idea of therapy years ago, and I don't anymore. But again, going in with it's the idea that we are in charge of our own recovery. We can't just say, okay, I'm going to put it on Andy's lap, Jamal's lap, Rob's lap, and they'll take care of it. No, it doesn't work that way. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So again, going in with it with educating yourself, Googling these things, whatever you need to do. There are resources out there. This is one of them. There are many. So continue to look for those.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's very powerful, everything that y'all shared, because with everything that you shared, one thing that I want to add to that is if you're going to therapy or you're looking at therapy as, hey, I'm going to go and I'm going to get a therapist, I'm going to go into therapy, and they're going to eliminate all of these feelings and things. That's not what therapy is. It's not a magic button. It's not a switch.
I wouldn't be here if
right?
it was.
You know,
You know?
you know, and feelings aren't buttons. Feelings are dials. There's a really good book that I read recently called Soundtracks, and it talks about being able to take your emotions and if it's at a 10, having a skill or the know-how to know where the dial is and turning it to a 3. It doesn't mean it's a 0. And turning whatever gladness or desirable feeling up more. It may not even be to a 10. It may be at a 7 or a 6. But how do you get it over that undesirable feeling? And therapy isn't when we talk about it's not eliminating, and you may go into therapy and have suicidal ideations after the first session. It's still gonna, it takes time to build rapport. It takes time to build a relationship with your therapist. And it doesn't mean that therapy doesn't work because you don't gel with your therapist. Find your fit is your therapy. If you don't have a good fit with your therapist, it's your therapy. Find the one that fits for you. It doesn't mean they're not qualified. It just means maybe it's some personality things, maybe it's some unconscious triggers. And really looking into it as dealing with suicide prevention. It's not saying, you know what, you're gonna come in here and there's no thoughts that you have that you say, oh well, I want to die. What it is that both are true. You want to die, but you also want to live. And we want to focus on the things that make you want to live because it's both happening at the same time. Otherwise, it would be no conflict. You wouldn't think, you wouldn't act, you would just go and do. But because you haven't done it, means a part of you wants to live. So let's look at that. And that's a part of what therapy is too, is let's look at, focus on the part of you that wants to live. And let's talk to the part of you that wants to die, or let that part of you that want to die speak. And now, once that part is speaking, now we can work on the cognitions. We can work on the things to hopefully be able to identify those things to help you get to a place to where that you identify other options or other you can decide more than be chosen for. Have A, B, and C. What if you don't like A, B, and C? What if you have your own things that you want to put in there? And I believe that, like I say, the person is the expert on the person, the therapist is the expert in the room as well. So it's two experts. And take out everything that you want so we can look through it together. So I just wanted to share that perspective.
And as someone who refers people to therapy and is in therapy themselves, I always tell anyone, no matter their gender, have a plan for what you're going to do after your therapy session. It's a lot to open up in 50 minutes, then you're on your own. For me, I run errands right after therapy. So I don't go home, isolate myself, and replay everything we just talked about and possibly catastrophizing. They did, my problems were not solved. What he or she told me in therapy, I don't buy. No, find a way to distract yourself. You've spent that 50 minutes, work on what you and your therapist are going to work on, what you're working on during the week, but also find a distraction so you don't get in your head too much about it.
Okay, panel, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic conversation. For everybody watching at home, we'll do this again next month. Again, this has been Nashville Public Library, Your Mind Matters, a men's mental health initiative. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll do it again next month. Thank you all for your time today, and we appreciate it.